Does this hire matter? Because if the Twins are at the talent deficit they've been at in 2025 for the next 2 years, they're not going to win regardless of who the manager is, whether that's Derek Shelton, James Rowson, a young, hip, up and comer like Craig Albanese, who was just hired by the Orioles. So how much influence is he going to have at all, do we think?
I mean, I think it would be insane to say it doesn't matter at all. In 2025 or in 2026, I don't think it's going to matter a huge amount. I mean, you could hire the greatest manager ever, and if, like you said, there's a talent deficit, you're not going to win a ton of games. I do think that having a new voice is always going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And now, whether that's 3 games different or 5 games different or 11 games different, I do think that's an important thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's just too many, like you said, there's too many gaps to fill. What does this team even look like? What kind of relationship do Shelton and Felby have? Like, is this I want this type of player? Was it Rocco that was the guy that was like, let's get guys with positional flexibility and worry about where they go defensively? Was that a Rocco thing or was that a Felby thing? Like, we don't know that, right? Right?
No. We don't know that, but I have strong suspicions that most of the things are Falvey things.
Mm-hmm.
But if him and Rocco align on all of that, there might as well be a Rocco thing too. Like, right. What is Shelton really going to be pushing for? Like, what are his core beliefs?
So that's a great question, and we should kind of pivot there next, because one thing Shelton does have is a strong, incredible hitting background. Now, we can laugh this off with like the performance of the Pirates in recent years, right? But he was also the Rays hitting coach at one point. He's a well thought of hitting guy in baseball.
He was also with Cleveland from 2005 to 2009 as their hitting coach, and that's prime Grady Sizemore era. That's Travis Hafner going off as a DH, hitting 40 home runs, and there's a good track record of a lot of players he was hitting coach for in that decade-plus span. And obviously the Pirates being who they are, that's different. But again, we got Buxton, we got up-and-comers in Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Luke Keeschel, I would still consider an up-and-comer because of his limited playing time. So there's a track record there that could definitely help back up these kids who have high ceilings for themselves that are just breaking into the majors that maybe Shelton can get more out of than Baldelli may have.
Mm-hmm. And I wanna touch on the prospect piece too, because I mean what you said is spot on, Theo. Like, that really does matter. If the Twins don't develop their talent internally, they're not going to turn around from being very mediocre to bad to good anytime soon. I guess my question is another one for you, Jeremy, of like, you brought up the word familiarity as a positive. And I think I would like push back there and say, why should we prioritize familiarity? Because what's familiar has not worked, right? I think you could make a compelling case that the Twins have over-prioritized familiarity organizationally in recent years, whether that is a lack of staff turnover, a lack of change of approach, offensively, a lack of turnover on the roster. And so to me, when you say he's familiar, that's a good thing. My instinct is to say, like, is it? Like, should we question that more if familiarity is good? And I think perhaps, and you can disagree with this, a lot of the general like malaise and pushback around this hire is probably because it's not somebody new, a truly like different voice, someone from kind of outside the organization. This feels to people like the Twins are taking a step back and making an easy, convenient hire over what might be best for the organization. And of course, there's no way for us lay people to know that, but I think that's maybe how people are digesting it. So curious for your take on the familiarity piece.
Yeah, and I guess my view is more like when you come into when you were in a franchise that didn't operate as a big market franchise, like familiar with how that works. You go to Pittsburgh, who's kind of the same, and then you come back, or you come into this situation where you're gonna know, like, you're never gonna have the expectation that your GM is going to spend $200 million. Your owner's going to spend $200 million. Like, how the ownership works here. You know as well as anybody the frustrations that this fan base has had with ownership, right? And so I think understanding kind of I don't like to use the word culture, but I think that's the best way to kind of describe, like, it's not going to be a situation where he's coming in and it's like, oh, I've never done this before, right? And I think there's value in that. How player development works, there's still a lot of the decision makers are the same as when he left, right? So having prior relationships with people in all of those positions, to me, that's the positive. Like, you come in and you have an idea of who does what things well and who's done what, and I think it's the networking thing, right? You go to Pittsburgh, you see what did or didn't work, you come back and you say, here are some things that I would like to do or not do in a situation that you're familiar with, more so than if he didn't know this area. I think that's a big difference. And so I understand entirely what you're saying. Like, bring in fresh blood, bring in someone that's only got experience somewhere else. Yeah, there's certainly value in that, but knowing exactly how this organization works and how ownership works and being familiar with all of that, I think is a benefit, or at least a check on the right side of the box for him, if that makes sense.